Oh, that's right, because we're not waiting for the
Julie
intro.
can't help herself. She's never quiet.
Oh, come on.
Are we allowed to swear?
Welcome to the Yuki D and Jinx Show. I am Brian. This is Julie.
Hi.
And before I start getting just totally carried away with our guest, you have some announcements, don't you?
I do. First off, I just want to let everyone know that we are always filming here at the Palace Theater and Art Bar in Georgetown every first Tuesday of the month. So definitely come on down. We do our recordings at 8 o'clock. So for future reference, always come on down and enjoy it. It's free and the drinks are good and strong. Just wanted to let people know. I know you've got a bunch of things coming up here.
Yes, we do.
I have a few things coming up that I guess I should announce. I mean, maybe people care, right?
People care, Julie.
People
That's
care.
why they're listening to the show.
I've been actually, for the last month, I've been getting ready to move my business out of Georgetown into Columbia City. I run a frame shop called Mainframe with Kyle Abernethy. And we're moving into Columbia City right off Rainier Avenue South. And we're having our big grand opening July 30th. So the frame shop's called Mainframe, and it's at 4527 South, Rainier Avenue South.
It's going to be really fun. You should show up to the event.
Yeah, it's custom framing. We do everything. We do, shadow boxes, framing. I've actually been doing a lot of magic art lately. A lot of magic collectors.
Surprise.
I know. Well, and I can't hide. Like I have to do high quality because people know I own the place. So they're
for magic cards?
yeah. I can't just whip them out. Not like I did the magic.
Are you
art.
framing some of your own stuff, Julie?
I actually framed my own stuff. I've done conservation on magic art. Let me tell you, that's actually pretty interesting, doing conservation work on stuff. Mostly not because of the artwork. The artwork's usually in good shape. It's the frame jobs that people had
previous
done.
frame jobs,
Yeah.
yes.
Anyway, we're open up July 30th, so come on down. Our hours are Tuesday
Julie,
through
what
Sunday.
time is the event going to start on July 30th?
Well, it's not an event, it's just a grand opening, but we are we open up from 10 to 6, so it'll be July 30th at 10 o'clock. We're open, ready to roll, and like I said, we're open Tuesday through Sunday, so we're actually extending our hours and our days, so we'll be open more than we currently are now.
Okay.
And then the other thing that I'm working on, it's actually pretty cool, is I'm working with a group of people to create a nonprofit called the Pacific Northwest Music Collective. Keep that in mind because once we launch, it's going to be pretty hardcore. This group is dedicated to fundraising for a Pacific Northwest Music Museum.
That sounds fun.
Oddly enough, we do not have one, and Mopop doesn't count. Because they're
No, they don't
a
count.
popular culture museum. The beauty of this museum is not only is it dedicated to all forms of music in the Pacific Northwest, but the museum itself actually doesn't own the items. The items are owned by the estates. So the
Oh, that's
families
nice.
and the musicians themselves actually
So
will
they'll
do-
be on loan, like
They'll
a
be on-
regular museum.
Exactly. So
Okay.
they'll be on loan as opposed to things that are actually acquired. That actually gives the estates a lot more freedom to loan things that they otherwise would covet to themselves. So
That sounds
anyway,
pretty cool.
Yeah. So we're working on that right now. The nonprofit exists right now, technically speaking, but we're rolling out an official.
Do you guys have a locale in mind where the museum may be?
Not yet. We're going to be focusing
Okay.
on fundraising. It'll probably take a few years to get
Okay.
the fundraising up to a certain point where we can actually find a brick and mortar location and set this thing up. It's going to take a little time.
Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that. And we actually do have a website that we're rolling out, Pacific Northwest PacificNorthwestMusicCollective.org.
There we go.
Anyway, so that's what I've been working on right now. And you've been pretty busy yourself.
I've been
buddy.
very busy. In fact, we're going to get to this with our guests. Ben and I are working on something called Dungeon Mastery with Ben and Brian.
Oh, God.
So we're going to, it's going to be
Oh,
great.
God is right.
So we'll be talking about it later on here. So we'll
Are there a
we'll
lot
just
of thongs involved?
No, stop it.
Okay.
It's not that kind of
It's not that
Not
kind
that
of
kind of
dungeon.
dungeon? Okay, I'm sorry.
It's like more like D&D kind of stuff. role-playing
It's way
game
nerdier,
things.
yeah.
It's way nerdier, way geekier.
No, I
way
can't wait
less
to
fun.
hear about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you guys are planning on taking the world by storm.
Torch and Storm, Julie. You got to get
Sweet.
that.
Torches and pitchforks. Yeah.
And
Yes.
that actually rolls us into our guests here
Yes.
for this evening, for
You
this
want to
episode.
introduce our guests?
Yeah. So, our guests tonight are both Ben Thompson here, right next to me, and next to him is Steve Belledin. Ben is the author of several books, including the BadAss series, which we currently have here, The
Yes.
Birth of a Legend, and then this one, which is the Arrest.
Yes, the very
You
first
gotta
The
read the
very
whole
first
thing.
one.
You have to read the whole
God,
story.
no.
Oh yeah, that's important.
Yes.
That's an important
And
book.
then, and you also are, you also run the Badass of the Week
The website.
website, amongst other things, which we will discuss more. Steve here also did the artwork. He's the artist
Did the covers.
for the covers of
Yep.
Badass. We know him from our original pilot in 2016. We had him on.
That's right.
He's done quite a bit of illustration.
He was
in
on the very first Yukity and Jinx show.
He was. He's done magic art, a lot of game art, as well as taking the world by storm with his fine art as well. I know you just recently did a pretty decent show on the west or on the East Coast over at Haven
Wasn't
Gallery.
mine, but
No, but you had had
You were
work-
a participant.
Yes.
yeah.
So
yes,
he's,
participant badge.
yes, so he's a fairly busy guy, and welcome guys.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you. Thanks
welcome.
for having us on the show. It's awesome to be here.
And I wanted to just, in introducing you guys, I wanted you guys to talk a little bit about the BadAss series, which I actually started reading. I think it was was it Birth of a Legend?
I don't know.
I don't know, Julie, which
no,
one
I think
was
it might be this one. Whatever has, I got as far as Julia Agrippina.
That's this one.
It's
Yeah,
this one, the
that's the
very
first
first
one.
one. I'm
Very
reading the
first
very
book.
first one. I'm still in the early period. I haven't gotten to modern times, but talk a little bit about this. Like, where did this whole idea come from?
Yeah, so BadAss is basically just, the elevator pitches that I take my favorite characters from history, from all different time periods, all different parts of the world. There's different people who did really amazing things, and I cut their life stories down to like 5 to 6 pages, and I just tell the good parts, like the violence, killing, murder, mayhem, destruction, all the stuff that you actually want to read about, sex, drugs, rock and roll, all that good stuff, and I just cut out the boring parts. And then we get really awesome
There are boring
illustrators
parts.
too. There's boring parts of history. I don't know if
They
you took
have
a
to
history class
sleep.
before, but it can be kind
Actually-
of boring sometimes.
There's a couple boring parts in there somewhere.
So, and how did you hook up with Steve here? How did you find him?
Oh, it was totally an accident. I met both these guys. So Brian is an illustrator on all the books as well. And I just kind of ended up being an accident because, I started this website in 2003, right? It was before it was before Facebook, Twitter, before any of that kind of stuff. It was like original, for the first 10 years of the website, I was making it in Notepad using HTML and uploading it as like text files basically.
Nice.
And at some point,
Remember
somebody
that, kid?
yeah, nobody
The
remembers
kids
that.
are like, what?
But that was like kind of a weird thing, right? Because like I was just bored at work. I worked in like the classics department at Boston University. And I was just like, we didn't have summer classes, but I had to be sitting in the office in the summer, so I was reading all this stuff anyway because I love history, and I would just write these stories down on the computer. I just upload them through whatever, like Yahoo web hosting, and then it was like I would get 3 hits a week, and it was just me reloading the page twice and my mom.
Yeah.
And then I remember getting the first time somebody I didn't know emailed me, I printed it out and posted it up above my thing, and they're like, hey, your website's pretty funny. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. This is so great.
That was your mom, by the way.
It's probably my
yeah.
mom.
Under a pseudonym.
I don't trust that my mom could come up with like a fake email address, but
Right.
There's a lot about your mom you don't know.
yeah, I regret saying that. I forgot that my mom might watch this. I feel bad. She can make a fake email address, I promise. But no, but yeah. So somebody was like, whatever, and I was like, oh, it's so cool. And then I was getting like 5 hits a week, and then I was getting 100, and then I was getting 2 million hits a week on my website, and I was just like, what the hell is going on here? Like, this is insane. And then I saw somebody on a more popular website than mine posted a story that was like very similar to the style that I was doing, which I always just called it like Julius Caesar over beers. It was like, here's my version of this really complicated story, but I'll just tell it to you and have it be funny. And and then I saw somebody else posted that, and I was like, they get a bunch of ads on their website. I don't have ads on my website. I should make some money off this. If somebody's gonna make money off this, it should be me. So I write a letter to like a literary agent, and he's just like, it just happened to be the perfectly right time where web to print was like Maddox and Tucker Max and some of these other people were bestsellers before
that's great.
the book was even out. I didn't have that kind of success, but like I sent it off, and this agent calls me like 2 hours later, like, don't show this to anybody. Send me all of your information. I was like, well, I'm not wiring money to Nigeria. It seems, so I'm just gonna go with
Seems
this.
kind of legit.
Yeah, and then the next thing I know, like, I have this book deal, and people who are trying to get published hate listening to this story, but it worked out to where, like, they were like, oh, well, we want to do propaganda style art for all these guys. Well, make them all look like Soviet posters. And I was like, that's cool, but like, I want to do like more realistic style art. I want to do like D&D style art or Magic card style art. And they were like, yeah, well, they were like,
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah.
Now we have a job.
yeah, they were like, well, okay, well, we don't know how to do that, so like, we'll just give you a little bit extra of advance, and you can use that money to hire your artists yourself. So I was just like, okay. And so then I'm cold emailing. I'm just some asshole with a website. Like, I work, I make 20 grand a year at working at a desk, right? I have a cubicle. I'm basically a secretary. And I'm just emailing these guys that like I had their Magic cards, or I like their art, or like people that I would never think that I would be sitting at.
And you fell for it.
Yeah. Well, it's even better because I would have never expected to be sitting at a table with these guys. I cold email them out of nowhere, like, hi, I'm just some punk idiot. Like, I can pay you money to like draw something for this book. And it turns out that the art director for World of Warcraft trading cards is also named Ben Thompson.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so these guys opened my email and were like, well, you're not the Ben Thompson I thought you were, but this sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, totally.
So
That's hilarious.
That's exactly how it went down. It was just like, Ben Thompson, boy, I like that guy. Wait,
Hold on a second.
this is a different Ben Thompson. By the way, you guys are into a lot of the same stuff. And I'm afraid if you ever meet, like, the world will just implode.
It's like matter and antimatter.
Yeah, but yeah, it was just, it was a no-brainer actually after I read the
Yeah, you were like, I get to do a cover for HarperCollins. That sounds awesome.
that came later. I agreed to do interior stuff way before.
Well, Ben, now you have to
like,
tell them. You have to tell them the story how we met each other, which is
Yeah.
really funny.
Yeah, then we have to
Oh,
tell
well,
them.
it's always when someone says, "Hey, I have the story. It's really funny." That's when you're like,
Oh,
"Is
it
really
better
funny?"
be.
It better be.
Oh,
It
yes.
better be a
Yourself
payoff now.
This is great because I hired one of these guys. I hired was this really awesome artist who was amazing, and he does a lot of really good work, and he did a ton of the interiors on the first BadAss book. And I'm at Comic-Con, and I'm at my first. I've never been to a Comic-Con, let alone like presented at one or had a table at any, or talked about my book ever. I haven't done a book reading yet. I'm sitting at this table at Comic-Con. There's just a million people around. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like freaking out. And Brian Snowdy comes up to my table,
Oh God.
and he's like, "Hey Ben, I'm Brian Snowdy." And I was like, "Uh-huh." And he's like, "I did a bunch of art for your book." And I was like, "No, you didn't." He's like, "I did this painting, and I did this painting, and I did this painting." And I was like, I thought this other guy did that. And he's like, "No, he subcontracted me to do the art." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't credit you for any of it in the book. I didn't realize it was subcontracted to you." And we've been friends ever since.
Yeah, we hit it off. Cheers.
Yeah.
Woo!
But yeah, it was just, and then it ended up, he did all the art, for a bunch of the art for the rest of the books too, so it ended up being like this really great thing. Turns out he lived like 3 blocks from my house, which was awesome.
Oh wow. So you live up in the north side as well?
Yeah,
Oh,
I live up north. Well, I don't anymore.
You don't
but I
have to
did.
say your address because that's not a good idea on
Yeah,
YouTube.
to stalkers.
Yeah. No offense, but no, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And when you created these, what I was curious about, because I actually am reading
Sorry, I
the
gave you like
first
the
one.
long version. I gave you the 20-minute version of like you saying like what gave you this.
It was
idea.
only
Yeah.
10, Ben.
No,
That's-
it wasn't too bad.
Always check.
No, but when you actually started this, when you were looking at history, what was your criteria for a badass? Because there's quite a few different folks in here, but it's like, did you have like a list of like what makes someone a badass?
So that's a really funny thing because I wrote the whole book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had like, coming down to, so the first book is 40 badasses from history, and I cut them into 10 time periods, and I try to cover every part of the world and every period of history. And I had like a huge list. It was like 100 of like, the short list was 100, and then it was like trying to decide which fingers to cut off, like which people I was gonna have on and which ones I wasn't.
Right.
And then I get the book done, and I submit it, and my editor's like, "This is great, but now you have to write an introduction for it and define what a badass is." And I was like, "Oh shit, I don't know, man." It's just like, it's obvious, right? Like they do badass shit.
Can't you write it?
Yeah, they do badass shit. I don't know. So I had to write this intro, and I think that what I came up with which is because what you end up having is you have King Leonidas, and he's like defending his homeland from the invaders, and you have Genghis Khan, who's like conquering a third of like the planet Earth, right?
Right.
And like how do you say Joan of Arc and Vlad the Impaler? What ties them together? And what I came up with was
Fire.
Determination.
Spikes.
Determination. So it doesn't matter really what it is that you're trying to accomplish, as long as you just go all in for it.
So they had parents who said, you can do anything, right?
Maybe.
I don't
Genghis
know.
Khan's mom like caught rats for them. Like he grew up eating rats. Like she was a single mom, and he grew up on the plains of Mongolia eating rats that his mom caught for him.
Hey, well maybe
And he
that's
conquered the largest contiguous land empire in human history, right? Like,
all for rats.
He was trying to find the original rat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His name is Ben. Ben the rat.
Nice pickup.
Yeah.
the rat's name was also Ben Thompson.
Hey, Belledin, I got a question for you. Now, did you have any art direction for the cover?
Yeah, I think there were 3 different art directors for all 3 of the BadAss books that I did.
But the
covers
first
for.
one, the first cover is my
one was
favorite.
Really like
Is this the
really
first one?
super
Yeah.
loose. Like
Yeah. We'll do it.
it was really weird. Like the art director for that ended up like at some point he had worked with a guy I went to college with, which was really strange at MTV, and for no good reason, like. You know, I think I met him like all of 5 minutes because I didn't have a scanner big enough to scan the piece or anything.
Yeah,
so I
it
actually
was.
had to
I
go
saw the
in
painting.
and-
It was big.
And so he like, I think it was just, you know, give us something vaguely like this, you know, with this much headroom for the.
Is this Anne Bonny? by
Yeah.
chance?
Yeah, it's Anne Bonny.
I was looking at that. I was like, this reminds me. I know Mark Tadine is here. Mark, do you remember when we did? Hi. Remember when we did a Anne Bonny live drawing? That
was a long time
I was
ago.
like, that was. Yeah, this reminds me of that.
So
That's
Anne
why-
Bonny's what made me pick Steve Belledin, because I had the card game that was like
Anachronism.
Anachronism,
Yeah.
and you did a painting of Anne Bonny for
Yeah.
it, and that has always that has always been my vision
The
of
most pirated image that I have ever created. Like that thing is
pirated.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I'm all bitter because I was never called to work on that damn game.
Yeah,
thank you.
it is absolutely like everywhere, and I don't own the rights to it, so I'm not going to defend it. But on the other hand, like, you know, if I could get the rights back, holy cow!
10 cents for every person who ever downloaded that picture.
Yeah, you'd be taking limos home.
Yeah.
We'd be drinking over at Steve's house right now,
Yeah,
actually.
it'd be on his roof deck.
Yeah.
We'd be filming
In
this in my
Paris.
studio.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I had that card game, and whenever I thought of Anne Bonny, I thought of that. And as soon as like you were one of the first people I emailed, I was like, you have to do this art for me.
Yeah, you did.
And then
I
got to
love
meet
those covers,
Anne Bonny
Steve.
again.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then they did the.
Then you did the interior one of Anne
Yeah,
Bonny.
I have the original. You mailed me the original, and I have it up
Wow.
on my wall in my house. But yeah, look. So they asked me what I wanted for the cover. They're like, "What do you want on the cover?" I was like, "A Viking, a pirate, and like a Roman warrior, a Greek or a Viking, a pirate, and a Spartan, like charging at this camera, like in front of a war." And I think that's probably, if you said the art direction was vague, they probably just forwarded that to you.
Yeah,
I think that was
it.
basically it, and then I was just like, okay, and I just did it, and they were like, it was really like very quick. Like, this is the sketch. They're just like, okay, and I was like, oh, you know, what'd be really cool is if you trap the, you know, the smoke of the gun, and like there's just a little bit, you know, above the, you know, the type, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
let's do that.
It
And I was like,
works.
great, and then
It's fantastic.
Then I get the book and the title's just enormous, but the art I think actually managed to
No, it works.
hold up against
works
it.
pretty well.
Yeah,
Very
it's
well.
kind of good. Even the giant words, like they work because
Yeah.
when they shelved this at Barnes & Noble, they shelved, because my last name is Thompson, they
Right.
shelved it between Sun Tzu's Art of War and Generation Kill. And I was like,
Nice.
this
Oh,
is the
that's
best
great,
possible
yeah.
place
That
to put a book
is
with a Viking
awesome.
on the word badass on the cover.
That is awesome.
Well, the nice thing about it too is it actually translates pretty well on the Kindle version. As you know, with scale, things have to be scalable these days.
Yeah.
So, and I would imagine too, being a magic artist, you notice everyone stops laughing when I talk. So when I start talking, everybody gets all.
This is to be funny.
Hey, Julie, be funnier.
I'm sorry. I'll try. No,
Small critique.
no. I guess you're used to scalability, being a magic
Yeah,
artist and everything.
yeah.
You have to think about how this is going to translate
Everything has got
in
to be
different
big
sizes.
shapes.
Exactly.
Big shapes have to be readable.
So, but yeah, so that was my I was just curious about what made it badass, why you picked the people that you picked in this, and in segueing into today's times, do you? I know you get to a certain point with your badasses, and then it kind of drops off a little bit. But except for Netanyahu, who I think is the most recent badass.
Sure, I didn't want to do anybody
time-wise.
who's still alive.
Okay.
Because I don't know the rights to them, so I don't ever run into weird stuff if like I put a person in there who is still alive today. Like on the website, I have more modern people. I have people who are like winning the Medal of Honor over in Afghanistan like 2 years ago. But on the book, I didn't really want to print it and make money off of somebody else's likeness and name and story.
Well, we had
without
to
their
do
permission.
that when we did the cards.
Yeah.
Remember, because I had to draw that guy, and you're like, Brian, stop drawing him. We're going to give you another gun.
Yeah, well, we
Yeah.
wanted to do patent on in the cards, and it's a whole thing because he's not out of copyright because it's been less than 75 years since he died, so
Right.
his estate holds the right to the copyright of his likeness, image, all that stuff. It becomes a whole thing where you have to get permission, and sometimes you have to pay permissions for it, and it's a whole mess that I didn't really want to deal with, so I didn't do anybody who was still.
Do you think that obviously times have changed between now and 2,000 years ago in terms of how people deal with politics and conquering and badassery? Do you think that things have changed considerably with contemporary folks versus 2,000 years ago in terms of how they manage themselves?
I think people don't change. I think people are. It's really the interesting thing about reading some of the old history stuff, right? Like you think. So a good example of this is you think I wrote a book. I have it's called Guts and Glory. I call it BadAss Junior in my head, but it's like. It's the similar style of BadAss, but it's for middle school ages.
A little younger audience.
Yeah, there's no dick jokes, and it's not called BadAss. But other than that, it's basically the same thing.
Those kids are missing out.
Yeah, you can.
It's a much slimmer edition.
It's amazing.
This is the high school edition. So
Yeah.
you get out of
Yeah.
middle school, yeah.
Yeah, I've been censored for the Guts and Glory. I've been censored on violence once and on sex stuff a lot. So it's like it's amazing what you can get away with in terms of violence for kids. I don't remember what I was talking about now.
Guts and Glory. We were talking about the
I was
difference
saying
between
people
and
are always kind of the same. So the most recent Guts and Glory book I did was on the American Revolution, and you talk about Thomas Jefferson, right? Everybody kind of thinks of Thomas Jefferson, powdered wig. He's in a painting or something. When they told Thomas Jefferson, they were at the Continental Congress, and they were like, Ben Franklin and John Adams and all these guys. They're like, all right, Thomas Jefferson, you're the best writer out of us. You're going to write the Declaration of Independence. And he freaked out and panicked and ran to a bar and started drinking. And then Ben Franklin and John Adams had to show up at the bar and be like, no, it's okay, man, you can do this, you got this. Right? Like people are always the same. You just write about them differently and you think about them differently when they're in the past.
Technology changes, language change, and things like that, but people are the same.
People don't change, yeah. There's still people doing heroic shit every day, right? There's people jumping in front of cars to like push people out of the way. There's people doing heroic stuff in wars. There's people saving each other every day. Like this sort of stuff, I think it resonates. The trick to writing the history is to making some of these old stories seem like they're people you would meet today.
Do you think that the world of like comic books, whether you're dealing with DC Comics or whatnot, where you have like these fictional superheroes and supervillains, has marred what people are? Well, no, I'm just saying in terms of like, we have like, it almost seems like in the last 50 years, we've stopped with the actual real life super people because people are so hyper-focused on fictional super people.
You're sort of not, well, we have the ancient Greek gods, we have the old Greek myths and the Egyptian myths, and so we've always had super heroic stories, right? You have Odysseus, you have Athena, you have like the great warriors of the past and history and all that stuff. I think the big difference now is that what sells well is stories of people being shitty to each other, and so like you get a lot more of that than you get of like people doing heroic stuff. Like somebody does something amazing and saves somebody's life, it's the bottom corner of the page,
blurb.
and the big headline is like, look at this horrible thing that happened, we're all gonna die, it's the apocalypse.
Or look at this Hollywood person banging this Hollywood person or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's more of like, I think there is a market for it because it's kind of cool, right? Like, people are like, oh, your personality on the internet, you probably get a lot of hate mail, a lot of people talk shit to you, and it's like, no, not really, because I'm not putting any horrible stuff out there. I'm being like, here's some cool people that did some really amazing things, and the feedback you get is actually really inspiring because people write you and be like, yeah, this is awesome, and the story made me inspired, and made me want to like go do something big, and that always feels really awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
And do you feel like in writing about all of these people in time, has it affected you in terms of the way you run your own life, like in researching, looking at history, looking at various folks in history? Have you noticed a change in yourself?
Sort of, yeah. Like one of the things that kind of you can learn from some of these old stories is like you're never out of it, right? Like Julius Caesar is a name that we always know, and like when he turned 33 years old, he fell on his knees in front of a statue of Alexander the Great and started crying because he's like, I'm never going to be anything. This guy conquered the whole world and died by the time he was my age. I'm nobody, I'm worthless, right? And it's like, you know, you read these people, like there was some guy who like jumped on like 2 grenades in World War II and he lived and he still like managed to like save 2 other guys from the battle he was in. And it's like, you're never out of it, right? Like it's kind of an inspiring thing to be like, no matter how shitty you think your life is, you know, somebody's been there and like they survived and like did something awesome. So you're never fucked, right? Yeah. Can I swear on this show?
Sure, you can now.
How many beers have you had?
Just
I have
half.
a cool question. Now, both of you guys, I know both of you guys used to be in Civil War reenactments.
Yep.
Okay, so you guys are kind of history buffs together. So, Steve, did you have any? Were you attracted to this because of the history, because of the art, or both? Or let's hear it.
History
money.
mostly. No, and actually, wasn't that good?
No, so there's a story with that because I was like, I want you to do like full page black and whites for the interiors, and I've already got like 3 people signed up, and he's like, well, yeah, but I'll do it for this, and I was like, no, you're not doing it for $100 a painting because I know what you're
Yeah,
going
he paid
for.
me more. Yeah, he paid more than I asked
won't give
for,
you more. I
actually.
won't give you that. You
When has that ever happened?
Yeah, never. No, I mean, the reality is, like, it was the history more than anything. Because, you know, weirdly, even though I'm mostly known as a fantasy artist, like, fantasy realism my jam. Like, it's not really, like, I enjoy doing it, but it's probably, when I sit down to read a book, very rarely is it fantasy. It's almost always, like, nonfiction and almost always history.
You know, oddly enough, a lot of people in the game industry are history buffs. It's really interesting when you talk to people. They're like really into history, nonfiction. You know, it's actually a strange thing that actually inspires a lot of the fantasy that's out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really
On the same
interesting because
boat.
like Game of Thrones is huge and everybody loves it, and it's just like, yeah, I'm sure it is, but like actual things that really happened are more interesting.
More
to
interesting.
me.
And it's
I
based
agree.
on things that really happened.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Well,
kind of
that's
taken
the
off
other
of the
thing,
War
is,
of the
like,
Roses. You know?
finding out what all those things are, and I mean, so like, you know, to me, it was a really great opportunity not only to work, you know, in a slightly different genre. I mean, you know, there's a hyperbolic bent to everything, you know, in the books and stuff like that, and there needed to be in the art as well. But it was still like I still got to learn about stuff I didn't know about, which was really cool. I mean, that was one of my favorite aspects of the books.
Yeah,
is,
I actually
like,
enjoyed when you had mentioned that the Parthian shot has devolved into the words parting shot.
Yeah.
And
Because
where
they
that
could shoot
came from.
backwards on their.
I did
Yeah.
that illustration, by the way.
Yeah,
Oh, did
Brian
you?
did
Was that you?
Brian did that,
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they could shoot backwards as they were riding away, and like the Romans couldn't do it, and like they used to call it the Parthian shot. But then they would like that worked into their conversation where they'd be like, I'm going to do a Parthian shot. I'm going to say something shitty
Say
to you as
something.
I'm leaving.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
the parting shot. No, that was actually pretty cool. I love stuff like that. You know, the
Yeah, it's
etymology of where something comes from.
And it's been awesome having these guys work on it because, so with the books, the way it works is like it opens with the name and the date and the location, and then a cool quote of somebody involved saying something badass, and then just a full page picture of that character. And like, I don't even have to write anything after that, right? Like, you open the page, here's a cool quote that I didn't write, here's a cool picture that I didn't draw, and you're just like, yep, this guy's badass. And then, but one of the things with having guys work on the book who really care about this stuff is that if Leonidas is carrying a Roman shield instead of a Spartan shield, I look like I don't know what I'm talking about. Because everybody's gonna look, somebody who knows their stuff is gonna look at that and be like, well, that's the wrong sword and the wrong kind of armor, and he's wearing the wrong helmet. Like, this guy obviously, I'm closing this book. This isn't a history book, this is fiction. Yeah. And so when you have people that work on the stuff that know what they're doing and like do the time to do the research to figure it out or already know the stuff, it just adds a whole level of, like, you have to be kind of ironclad with your facts when you write a history book, because if one thing is wrong and the reader knows it's wrong, you lose all credibility. So it's kind of been really awesome to have guys like that work on projects like this.
Do you ever learn anything new from your readers in terms of somebody contacts you and says, hey, you know, I read this is awesome. Did you also know blah, 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 and they might have something
I get
additional.
awesome emails all the time. So I got an email from somebody in Chile one time, and they were like, you have to write about like the national hero of my country. He's this guy named Galvarino, and he was a native, and he fought the conquistadors, and they captured him, and they chopped his hands off. So he made this giant iron blades and strapped them to his arms like Wolverine, and like went back and fought them again. He was the national hero of our people. There's nothing about him in English, and I was like, there is nothing about him in English. Can you translate me some stuff from Spanish?
That's awesome.
And they send me this big thing, and I write the article, and then like that got picked up by like a few big like news sources, and I was just like,
That's awesome.
it was like, you know, it's these people's history, and it's really cool. It's a really cool story that you would never have heard about outside of that country.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
That's very cool.
So, and then we were talking today, because like I said, I've been reading this, and we were talking about what makes a badass, you know, and I was like, I think we need to have a badass-a-thon.
So Julie wanted to have a badass-a-thon. Now,
See
I'm
how he
not
says
entirely-
Julie wanted to.
Well, you did.
agreed. Yeah, I did. But
Okay. So what does a badass-a-thon entail, Julie?
what
I'm
do
gonna need
people?
more
Please
here.
explain
Yeah.
it. Please explain it to our audience, because inquiring minds want to know.
Okay, well, you know, it's kind of like, you know, when you have the drinking game of I never have, or, you know, that game,
Never have I ever.
well, it's kind of like that. But badass stuff. Like, have you ever done anything that would be badass?
Yeah,
One of
so
See, I told you,
Not
like,
at all.
Steve would say
100% no.
yeah, no, so that's the thing, right? So like, so that's why, like, so I get emails a lot where people are like, so you think you're badass, huh? And I was like, well, I wrote the book on badass, but they're like, you think you can do some badass? I'm like, no, actually, I can't. I suck. I'm very like cowardly, right?
Are you really? Oh, come on. I'm sure you did something that's badass.
So the thing with this is that like when these guys do these heroic things, I can write about it and be like, this is amazing, like this is mind blowing. I can never do this. You go be Julius Caesar. I'll be Cassius Dio. I'll write your story when you get back.
Fair enough.
I'll be the monk with the pen and the with the ink quill, and I'll just write your great stories. And
I'll be the monk that illuminates that manuscript.
Right.
illuminates. You spend 4 years illuminating the tea for at the
Exactly.
beginning of the thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you could resurrect Ronnie James Dio to sing a song about it.
I had a
There you
D&D
go.
character. I had a D&D bard named
Thanks,
Cassius.
thanks, Chuck. I knew you'd appreciate that.
I played a bard in D&D named Cassius James Dio. But yeah, no, I don't want to jump in front of bullets. I don't mind writing the stories of the people that did it, but like the
So
fact
you've
that
never done anything badass
To my knowledge, no.
that's legal.
I mean, I married my wife.
and she's right over there.
Right over there. Nice pickup, Steve.
I try.
Who's driving you home tonight, by the way?
My wife.
That's right.
But no, not to my knowledge.
You've
I don't
never
think
done
I've-
anything badass?
No, I've never even
Ever?
broken a bone.
You've never your own bone or other people's
No,
bones?
Not
Yeah.
even, neither.
Really?
As far as
You've
I'm aware.
never done anything badass? Never gotten arrested?
Nope. I am uncontroversial
try
and
to get
boring in
stupid.
every like. I am like vanilla.
But he paints wonderful pictures, Julie. Look at that. That's badass.
Oh, come on. Oh my God, you guys are such
Pussies.
fucking.
Yeah. I mean, kind of. I mean,
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't have Andre the Giant as a babysitter.
It wasn't Andre, it was his wife.
Okay, all right. So that's kind of
yeah.
badass.
Mrs. Giant.
Mrs.
Yeah,
Giant.
hi,
Mrs. the Giant.
No,
Sorry.
in fact, yeah, well, you know, Andre the Giant's wife was my babysitter.
For real?
Yes.
She really was. And while she was watching us, she accidentally, this was actually kind of funny, she was making something in the kitchen. She was a big lady, right? As you
No.
would have,
Get
right?
out of here.
I mean, you don't know though, right? Like,
She was a
could've
big
been
lady.
5 foot tall.
And, so she's making something in the kitchen, and I'm like, I'm like 4 or something, and my sister's like 1 year old, and she's just learning how to walk. Remember those things that they used to have for kids that you walk in?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I
yeah.
fell down the
Is there-
stairs in one of those.
Oh my
Well,
God.
there you go.
Yeah.
See, my sister's like puttering around in it, and we had a cellar, right? And the door was open, and her name was Soupy, and she also worked for. She was the one who designed. She worked in the music industry. She was the one who designed Alice Cooper's makeup.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She worked a lot. She did a lot of stuff. Like she did stuff for Dick Dale and Alice Cooper and all this stuff. But anyway, so I'm watching my sister. I'm just sitting there and I'm like, Soupy. And she's like, what? And I was like, Soupy. My sister's name was Robin. I'm like, Soupy, Robin's going down the stairs. And as I said that, my sister literally turned the corner and we see her
Cascading.
go down in that little thing, and I hear this tunk, 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 and Soupy screams, you know. She's like, oh my God! And my sister goes all the way down the stairs and then landed on her head, right? On a cement floor and starts screaming. So Soupy's freaking out. This is the first time she's ever watched kids.
Oh God.
So
Just run away.
yeah, she's like, oh my God.
That was also the last time she watched it.
I mean, I could have said something sooner, but I said it right as she went down the stairs.
Boy, I hope Robin's watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, my sister was just, messed up, and my parents were like, what the hell? And she was horrified. She said she was so horrified by the situation. Not only did she never want to watch kids again, but she felt so terrible that it stuck, it burned in her brain. However, and this is actually very interesting, she also happened to love my sister's name. And so when she and Andre had a child, they named her Robin after my sister. So it was kind of a happy little ending to that.
That's a
story.
happy ending to
Isn't
that
that
story,
nice?
Julie. Thank you.
So your badass story is that you got Andre the Giant's wife to get out of babysitting?
Yeah, she never babysat after that. She was done.
I'm totally
So
horrified.
I was the first and the last.
These Barrow kids,
Yeah,
I've had it with
I
them.
broke Andre the Giant's wife.
Many tried.
Yeah, but I did it.
That's not. But I didn't do anything though. That wasn't me being bad. I just happened to have an interesting babysitter.
Yeah.
So I did. You've done some badass shit.
I have done very little badass stuff.
Oh,
Julie.
come on, now he's backing out. Earlier he was like, I did, and I. See, this is the problem with you guys.
You and I have both
You're
survived living
you're
in
like
New
sitting
Jersey.
Here going,
We both survived living in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty badass, I guess.
Not really.
Yeah.
Well, you were born in New Jersey, weren't you, Ben?
I was not. I was born in
Oh.
Philadelphia.
Oh, that's right.
We were living in New Jersey,
That's right,
and
yeah.
my dad drove past
Drove
the
you- yeah.
hospital that we were supposed to be born at and drove across the bridge to New Jersey. My mom's like, where the hell are you going? He's like, no kid of mine's gonna be born in New Jersey.
I grew up in Pennsylvania, but for some reason,
Because I tell people I wasn't born in America. I was born in New Jersey. Yeah. I was supposed to be born in frickin' France, dang it. My mom she's like, oh, it's pretty dodgy coming with you on that plane, coming back from France, and I thought,
then
he
you did
couldn't
it
have waited a couple of more days.
Yeah, you
then I
would've
would
been
have been French. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Drink beer with my pinky sticking out or something like that. I don't know what's going on with those people.
So, no, you were telling me about your grenade story.
Oh,
and
come
how
on.
badass you were. See, now he's all like, oh no, I wasn't
Somebody
badass.
once threw a live grenade into my lap. That's all. Yeah.
He just jumped on it.
It was his
No.
girlfriend.
Pulled the pull up.
No,
just
it wasn't a
kidding.
and
girlfriend.
that's how they broke up.
That's how I knew she wasn't
That's
the
the
one.
last one, honey.
He feels nothing.
That's
from
how I
this
knew she
now.
wasn't going to marry me.
Exactly. Yeah. What's that? Here's a ring. Oh, here's a live grenade.
See ya.
Well, I've seen enough.
Well, you've gotten arrested, right?
I have never been arrested.
Well, is it that you never been arrested because you never got caught?
Yes.
Okay. You guys, seriously?
We're not going to go into those stories, though, Julie. It's the audience
You
doesn't
can't
want.
go in. No, audience does not want any good stories about you getting
Sadly,
arrested.
no. Nothing
No?
interesting.
Nothing interesting?
I did beat up somebody who was trying to attack a girl in a. This is a long time ago. I went to a movie with one of my buddies, and we went to Starbucks, and there's this bum comes in, and he starts attacking the girl behind the counter. So I beat him up and threw him out.
Oh, well, that's pretty badass.
That was it.
That's
pretty
good.
good.
That's
Yeah.
a good one. All right.
Yeah, and it
It's
was
so
weird.
because I once watched this guy at a Starbucks beating up a girl in this hook. It's really
Well,
weird.
she was like your size, this little tiny blonde girl. He's like, ah, and I'm like,
Wait, the hobo?
The story's losing a little steam, right?
And it was like a movie.
Where's
too.
this
I picked him up
going?
and I kicked open the door, and
I'm
I
not
did
sure
like
I
one of
like
these things,
this
and I just
story.
chucked him out like a cartoon. It was fun.
See, there you
Yeah,
go.
okay,
There's
that's
one,
just one- that's just
thing.
one thing.
You've done nothing
Okay,
else.
Nothing else.
You done anything risky?
Maybe.
I'm definitely gonna need another beer if you're gonna get any good stories out of me.
Come on.
Make it two. Actually, this is getting good.
So,
Sure.
Yeah,
why
let's go
not?
three.
Make
Make
it three.
Yeah.
okay, well,
So
have you...
Steve has a good story about the cover, which is kind of badass.
Yes.
The cover of the second book, which was
Oh,
which was a
this guy
war.
here?
Steve went to
This one?
war.
So here's a really weird thing
Yeah, this is a good story.
that happened. As an illustrator, let me tell you, don't necessarily listen to what you're being told as being like okay, because sometimes, boys and girls, it is not. Because on this cover there's this is Professor Moriarty. It's
Oh, that's
supposed to be over on
Moriarty.
the right, and there is a dragon.
I'm just kidding.
A generic dragon. And what was supposed to be there,
there's
and
a
I
dragon.
painted this,
Oh.
mind you,
Yeah.
was supposed to be Skeletor and Godzilla.
Yes.
And so I said, I did the sketch, and I emailed the art directors, and I said, hey, do we have permission
Did you put Barney
to
on there?
use Godzilla and Skeletor? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. And I was like, well, could I get in writing the permission to use, Skeletor and Godzilla?
That's
and they're
pretty
like,
badass.
And they're like, yeah, we'll get it to you.
Yeah, no
so
problem,
I went
kid.
ahead and I painted, which, I think Ben and I differ on this one. It's my preferred version of the cover. I think he prefers the version that ended up, but I don't know. That's what you've always told me. Or have you?
Oh no, I was lying to you the whole time.
Okay. Yeah. So
I just didn't want you to feel bad.
so there exists a painting with Skeletor and Godzilla.
I've seen it.
And I finished the painting. I hand in the painting, and they're like, yeah. So the legal department double checked, and yeah, it's not okay. And then we need you to repaint, those two characters. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna need more money because that's half.
That's important.
That's literally half of the
Half the
painting.
cover, yeah.
And so, what I did was I had the first painting printed out as a giclée, and then I painted on top of that. So then now there's effectively two covers.
Yeah. So the
full
original
paintings.
cover art for this book is a printed out poster that's half covered in paint, and that is the original artwork for the book.
Yeah.
But the original art made it into the book. If you own a copy of this book
Really?
and you open it to the last page, it
Yeah.
includes other books by Ben Thompson, Badass Birth of a Legend, and it has the original art with
right.
Skeletor and
Yeah, it
Godzilla.
does. Yeah, Skeletor.
I was
that's
really
awesome.
proud of my Skeletor.
It was
That's all I'm saying.
amazing.
That Skeletor
It
looks
was
good, dude.
so fucking good.
You nailed
I'm not
it.
even a He-Man guy, but I was like, man, of all the He-Man characters,
Interesting.
Skeletor.
Well, yeah. So I got shit for. I was on NPR for this book, and the guy was like, "Skeletor, really?" And I was like, "It's a fucking skeleton head on the head of a beefy bodybuilder dude."
Yeah.
And he travels through time, and he's a wizard, and he rides a purple panther.
But he does-
Tell me that's not badass.
But he's like, I'll get you, He-Man.
well,
like
his
And he
people.
has a castle.
Well, he can't help. His henchmen are incompetent, right? It's not his fault.
I mean, I'm not really sure.
What's he got? He's fighting the strongest man in the world, and he's got a beast dude and the merman guy, right? What are you supposed to do with that?
But Evil Lynn, she's got it. She's got her crap together.
He's got the
And she's
sorceress.
hot.
But He-Man has the sword. He-Man has a way better team. Yeah.
Cringer's afraid of everything, though.
But no, he's
that should be canceled out.
That always beats Panther.
That's true.
You guys are losing me.
But also, actually, if you
It's
get,
just Dork Tower, right?
I know.
Basically, it's
Just-
black belt level Dork Tower.
I'm pretty sure that I don't know which edition this is, but in the first edition of the third book.
Sorry, I was out doing badass things when you guys were watching this show.
I didn't
I
even
was
want to.
actually living my life.
So in the first edition
talk
of
about the
Badass
exploding
Ultimate Deathmatch,
potato?
in the back,
No.
it still has the Godzilla art for the cover for
Yes.
this one.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting story. This is
So your
really
painting, your hard work was not for nothing. You have a three
Plus,
and a half.
I have two paintings.
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
true.
now you have
So you have a
Sell 'em.
2 by 3 inch little picture of it in the very back page. It's the
So
last thing people
our-
see before they close the book.
Our camera guy, Dan, actually used to have these barbecues at his house every year. And one time,
Until
Steve
that
was
thing you
visiting,
did.
And we're hanging out, having cigars and beers and copious amounts of adult beverages out on his patio.
No.
And I said, Steve, what are you working on? I said, well, I'm doing this cover for this this book. And he goes to describe it. I said, is Ben Thompson writing that book? He said, yeah. I said, I'm doing the interiors right now at my place.
Yeah, Brian was mad because it was the second book and I made him draw the chupacabra. Which there's no description of the chupacabra. Nobody knows.
Oh,
what
I
it looks like.
agonized
There's 10
over that
descriptions
damn
of it.
thing.
One of them he looks like a gray alien. One of them he looks like a goat thing kind of thing. It's it's a demon. So the second book's on mythology, folklore, fictional characters, right? So basically, I tie in the ancient Greek myths to I basically say we've had badass fictional characters forever, right? I tie in Mr. T to the story of Hercules, right? He's a big, strong guy accused of a crime he didn't commit. He has to perform these labors to make amends for his previous failures. B.A. Baracus is Hercules for
And
the
he
modern
drinks
day.
milk and goes to school.
Yeah, he does all the
Is
right
that why
things.
you have that picture of him in your bathroom?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Whenever you're going to pee in my house, you're looking at a picture of B.A. Baracus.
Yes, right. Yeah, you did, Mr. T.
But yeah, so like, you know, it was all about like fictional characters and like how those stories, you know, what we can learn from those stories and how they affect like our what you can learn about cultures from different, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I forgot where I was going with this story.
B.A. Baracus is in your bathroom. We're talking
Before
about, Okay, we're talking about ancient things, how they apply to modern things. And,
No, it wasn't related to that.
okay, we're out on Dan's
Oh,
place.
I made you draw the chupacabra.
Yes,
So it was
Chupacabra,
going to be like
okay.
another thing about like
Good save.
what the last section is
you.
monsters, right? So I talk about the mythology of dragons, and I do Moby Dick, and I do the chupacabra, which is this thing that eats goats. It's a vampire thing that eats goats in Puerto Rico.
So it's
Sucks the
not
blood
just
out
a restaurant in.
It is the goat sucker.
It's a pretty solid restaurant in Green
Pretty
Lake, but,
awesome restaurant. Yeah.
But yeah, so I make Brian draw this, and I'm like, there's 4 different descriptions of this thing. So
one.
pick one. Yeah. And Brian, I meet him for drinks at this place by our house, and he's like, I can't draw chupacabra. I did like 4 paintings of it. It's not looking good.
I drew that thing like 750,000 times. I have a stack of stuff I threw away. Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I'll bet all of them were gold.
No, they weren't. You want to buy the
I don't know.
scribbles? Yeah.
I'll cherry pick.
How are we doing for time, Dan? You doing okay?
We're wrapping up.
We're wrapping up? Okay.
Aw.
Spent
I
rounds,
know.
last words. You guys have anything to talk about?
Anything coming up here down the turnpike?
Yeah. Ben, do you want to
Yeah,
mention
we're doing
Dungeon
a-
Mastery?
Yeah, we're doing
Why don't you talk about
we're doing a new show. So I've been kind of slacking on the Badass of the Week thing, but I want to do a new project, and we're gonna do like cool D&D adventures. So we're gonna do a YouTube channel, and I'll write like a cool D&D adventure, and then Brian's gonna paint a couple paintings for it.
Does the channel have a name?
It's called Dungeon Mastery, and
Sweet.
With Ben and Brian.
Ben and Brian, and there will be a link for it probably somewhere in the.
Well, we'll have a link
Yeah, we'll have a
in
link
the
up.
information.
Yeah,
Sweet.
right
Hey, Steve, got anything going?
Yeah.
I paint pictures
He's gonna be on
that
the
I
show.
can't talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
He's
gonna
gonna
be
be
Yeah,
on
we're,
Dungeon
we're gonna have Steve on the show.
Yeah.
He doesn't know it yet, but he's gonna be on.
You can come too. It'll be awesome.
I just found out
Oh, that's an aftermath.
you were there. But no, I just, magic stuff, personal artwork.
Got any
you know.
upcoming Magic games?
So
you're
you're
working on?
still a current magic artist,
I am.
correct?
Yeah.
As opposed to Julie and I, who've been thrown by the wayside.
Well, I was thrown ages
It's
ago.
only a matter of time, Brian. And then I'll be a grizzled veteran too.
By the way, right after the show, we're doing a book signing, and Ben brought some books to sell. So if you need a Ben Thompson book, which everyone does need, we have some available. We're going to sign copies for you here.
Yeah, and
That should be
a
very
physical
fun.
I
copy
paid
is
Brian
way
$20
better.
before we got here to say that.
No, yeah, definitely get the physical versus the Kindle. I have it on Kindle, but this is way nicer. So
They're super entertaining. They're wonderful books.
They have like a
Everyone
good
should
feel
own
to
a
them.
copy.
They printed on like this.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're really nice. Well, thank you guys
Yeah,
for coming
thank you
on
guys
our
very
show.
much.
We
Cheers.
really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
cheers.
you.
Thanks for having us on.
Or I don't have. I just
I know you
have
said
the
they make
come on.
strong drinks here.
Exactly.
You got a tab.
tab. So,
Okay, we're going to see you guys next time. Thanks a lot. Thanks
Thank
for coming
you.
out.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, guys.
Woohoo. We're out.